Men must either be caressed or annihilated. They will avenge themselves for slight injuries, but cannot do so for severe ones. Those words of Machiavelli carry a brutal truth. The first cut of disrespect is never small. It is the first breach in your fortress walls. Once allowed, it signals to every watching eye that you can be tested, that you can be touched, that you can be mocked without consequence. Picture a king seated on his throne. The hall is filled with lords and courtiers. One voice, a whisper turned into laughter, dares to mock him within his own court. The king hears it, feels the sting, yet stays silent. He thinks ignoring it makes him appear above it, but silence is not a strength here. Silence is weakness, and weakness, once revealed, spreads faster than plague. Tomorrow that same courtier will laugh louder. Next week another will join him. And before long, the king who once ruled unchallenged becomes a figure of ridicule in his own empire. The throne is not lost in one blow, but in 1,000 small cuts of tolerated disrespect. This is what happens in your life. It rarely begins with outright betrayal. It begins with a joke at your expense in the office, a friend dismissing your words with a smirk, a partner scrolling their phone while you speak. These moments seem trivial, so you let them pass. But each time you do, you give permission. You grant others a silent license to chip away at your sovereignty. And soon, you are no longer the ruler of your own domain. You become the jester in someone else's court. Sun Tzu warned, "If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle." Disrespect is that enemy. It is not just an action. It is an invasion. It seeks to enter your territory and test the walls. When you do not respond, you are telling the world your gates are unguarded, and unguarded gates invite more attacks. The first cut matters most, because every soldier on the battlefield is watching what happens when the line is tested. Do you strike back with steel, or do you shrink into silence? If you hesitate, you teach others exactly how to treat you, and from that moment on, disrespect multiplies like fire consuming dry fields. You must see every slight, every mockery, every careless dismissal not as an accident, but as a probe, an enemy scout testing the defenses of your kingdom. Do not wait until the invasion is full scale. By then, it will be too late. The battle for respect begins not when armies clash, but in the very first moment someone dares to step over the line. Respect lost once is never fully regained. Guard it at the first cut. It is not titles that honor men, but men that honor titles. Machiavelli understood something most people still miss. The crown is worthless if the man beneath it is weak. Respect does not begin in the mouths of others. It begins in the throne room of your own mind. Before the world can bow to you, you must first conquer yourself. The greatest enemy of respect is not out there in the streets, in your office, or on the tongues of your critics. The greatest enemy sits within. It whispers in the moments you tolerate mediocrity. It hides in the excuses you tell yourself when you let your standards slip. This is self-disrespect, the quiet rot that eats away at your throne from the inside. Psychology makes it clear. The way you see yourself sets the blueprint for how others treat you. If you carry yourself like a servant, no one will mistake you for a king. If your self-talk is poisoned with doubt, the world will mirror it back to you. You teach others how to treat you by the way you treat yourself in silence. Now imagine the throne of your mind as a kingdom. If the king inside is unstable, a coup is inevitable. When you allow weakness to sit in that chair, anyone can walk into your territory and topple you. A snide comment becomes a dagger. A dismissive look becomes a battering ram. Disrespect from others does not create instability, it exploits it. Think of it like an empire with cracked foundations. The enemy does not need a full army. A single push can bring the walls crumbling down. This is the internal coup, the slow, invisible rebellion of your own neglected strength. But you are not condemned to weakness. The mind can be fortified. Picture a fortress built stone by stone, wall by wall. Discipline is your stone. Identity is your gate. Self-talk is the steel that holds it all together. Every morning you choose your words to yourself, you are laying another brick. Every time you refuse to excuse your own laziness, you are forging stronger iron for your gates. When you build this inner fortress, no insult can penetrate it, no disrespect can breach it. Look around in the modern world. You see people who walk into a room and immediately command respect, even before they speak. It isn't their clothing, their wealth, or their status alone. It is the invisible fortress of their mind. Their posture says, "I know who I am." Their silence says, "My throne is secure." Meanwhile, others crumble at the first joke made at their expense. Their walls collapse because they never built them. They expected the world to respect them before they respected themselves. The truth is simple and merciless. No one will defend a weak king. If you cannot defend your throne within, do not expect the world to guard it for you. Respect begins when you stop tolerating your own disrespect. Raise your standards in silence, and the world will raise theirs in your presence. Your mind is your throne. Guard it, fortify it, and never abandon it. Rule the throne within, and no one can overthrow you. Whosoever desires constant success must change his conduct with the times. Machiavelli's words strike at the heart of your mornings, because the way you begin your day decides whether you walk into the world as a commander or as a casualty. The battlefield of respect is not won at noon when others confront you. It is won in silence, in the early hours when no one is watching but the enemy within. The first hour after you rise is the war drum of your kingdom. Science proves that your circadian rhythm, the natural clock of your body, sets the tempo of your discipline. Habits formed in those first minutes carve grooves into your psychology that echo through the entire day. If you seize those hours with structure, with decisive action, your mind sharpens like a blade drawn across a whetstone. But if you stumble into chaos, scrolling, snoozing, wandering aimlessly, you march into the day already beaten. You have surrendered the throne before you even put on your armor. Respect is not only about how others treat you, but how you condition them to treat you. If you cannot command yourself at dawn, how can you expect to command anyone else at midday? Disorder in your mornings becomes disorder in your interactions. Missed alarms bleed into missed opportunities. Neglected routines turn into neglected boundaries. The man who cannot master his first hour is the same man who gets interrupted, ignored, and mocked later. Others sense weakness in the smallest details. They see it in your tired eyes, your slouched shoulders, your scattered words. They see you have no crown upon your head, no discipline in your step, no fire behind your eyes. And so they treat you accordingly. Now imagine the morning as the armory of a warrior king. Every action you take in those early hours is the forging of armor. The shower is not just cleansing, it is the baptism into readiness. The clothes you put on are not just fabric. They are chainmail and crest, signaling your presence to the battlefield. Your posture as you walk out the door is not casual. It is your standard raised high above your troops. Even your voice, steady or weak, sets the tone of whether others see a ruler or a pawn. A soldier does not march into combat without his breastplate. Why then would you march into a world full of predators without your symbolic armor? Picture two men walking into the same office. One arrived late, still half asleep. Hair unkempt, shirt wrinkled, coffee spilled on his desk. The other entered sharp, steady and composed, his presence like a drawn sword. Who will be respected? Who will be overlooked? The difference was decided before sunrise. The morning is your proving ground. Each choice is either a weapon forged or a weakness revealed. Win the first hour and the world feels your dominance. Lose it and you walk unarmed among wolves. Conquer the morning and the day will kneel before you. It is not the well-fed but the hungry who make the greatest hunts. Machiavelli understood that power is not always in movement, but in restraint. In a world drowning in noise, the man who can remain still is the one who controls the tempo of battle. Stillness is not weakness. Stillness is a blade hidden under a cloak, a threat concealed until the perfect moment to strike. Viktor Frankl, who endured the horrors of the concentration camps, discovered this truth in the darkest of places. He said, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." This is the core of weaponized stillness. The insult comes, the challenge is thrown, the enemy steps forward. Most men lash out instantly, enslaved by impulse, but the sovereign does not. He pauses. He allows the silence to hang heavy in the air. In that silence, others grow nervous, they reveal themselves, they show fear. And then, when he does act, it is deliberate, calculated, devastating. Picture the predator. The lion does not roar before the strike. He crouches, he waits. The silence before the pounce is more terrifying than the kill itself. The prey feels the weight of unseen eyes, senses the tension and trembles. That is the intimidation of stillness. Noise is cheap, fury is predictable, but restraint makes others wonder what storm is hiding behind your calm. The man who does not rush to defend himself creates doubt in the minds of his enemies. Is he weak or is he waiting? The uncertainty is more powerful than any shouted word. Now look at the modern world. How often do you see people lose respect, not because they were wrong, but because they overreacted? The co-worker who explodes at a small critique. The friend who rushes to defend themselves over a joke. The stranger on social media who wages war in the comments. Their noise betrays them. Their lack of control strips them of power. But then there is the other kind of person, the one who does not react immediately, the one who holds their silence like a drawn bow. Others speak carefully around them. Others hesitate to provoke them. Their composure commands respect without a single word. Stillness is not the absence of action, it is the sharpening of action. It is holding your fire until the target is exposed. It is the art of making others reveal themselves while you conserve your strength. When disrespect comes, do not rush to strike blindly. Pause, let the silence suffocate your enemy. Then, when you do act with precision that cannot be ignored. In the chaos of the world, the loud man is forgotten. The still man is feared. Silence is not emptiness, it is loaded power. It is much safer to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Machiavelli's words are not a call to cruelty, but to clarity. They remind you that mercy, when given to the wrong person, becomes a weapon against you. Disrespect does not grow in a vacuum. It survives in the cracks of tolerated weakness, in the company you keep, in the voices you allow near your throne. Look around your own life. Who mocks you when you speak of your ambitions? Who laughs at your discipline? Who undermines your silence? Who pretends to be a friend, but delights in your mistakes? These are not harmless companions. These are weak links in your chain of power. And in war, one weak link is enough to break the entire formation. You cannot command respect while standing beside those who profit from your hesitation. You cannot sit on your throne while rats nibble at the legs beneath it. Machiavelli warned rulers of this exact danger. Show mercy to the unworthy, and they will rise against you. Tolerate insult, and it spreads like a contagion. A single tolerated act of disrespect becomes a precedent, and precedents shape reputations. The world is watching how you respond, and once it learns that your defenses are porous, attacks will multiply. To be merciful where you should be, ruthless is not kindness. It is surrender. Imagine the guillotine. Cold, sharp, unwavering. When it falls, there is no debate, no hesitation, no compromise. That is how you must treat the weak ties and toxic influences in your life. Ruthlessness is not cruelty, it is survival. A king who allows traitors in his court will one day be dragged from his throne. A general who spares deserters will soon lead an army of cowards. A man who tolerates constant disrespect will one day bow to it. Think of it in modern terms. The colleague who constantly interrupts you in meetings, the friend who only calls when they need something, the family member who belittles your goals under the disguise of advice. Each time you allow it, you sharpen their blade against you. Each time you laugh it off, you hand them a piece of your crown. But when you cut ties, when you eliminate without apology, the air changes, respect rises. Others take note. The message is clear. This throne is not a place for parasites. The cost of hesitation is high. You may believe you are being noble by enduring, but endurance without limits is decay. The battlefield of life does not reward patience with traitors. It rewards the one who acts swiftly, decisively, and without remorse when the integrity of their kingdom is threatened. You must be your own executioner. If someone repeatedly disrespects you, you do not reason with them. You remove them. If a circle drains you instead of strengthens you, you do not linger, you sever it. If the world learns that you are ruthless with those who seek to diminish you, fewer will dare. Fear is not always about terror, it is about certainty. They must know that once the line is crossed, the blade will fall. Disrespect cannot be managed. It must be eliminated. Cut once. Cut deep. Never cut twice. Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see but few can feel. Machiavelli understood the truth most people ignore. Perception is power. Respect is rarely given because of what you truly are. It is given because of what you appear to be, and until the world knows your strength, it must believe in your mask. The mask of command is not deception. It is armor. It is the throne you wear on your face, in your posture, in your voice, in the way you carry yourself when every eye is watching. History shows this again and again. Those who appeared weak, even when strong, were devoured. Those who appeared strong, even when unsure, were obeyed. Your body is your first throne. Studies from Harvard revealed that posture alone changes not just how others see you, but how you feel within yourself. Stand tall, shoulders wide, chin lifted. Your body signals dominance before you speak a single word. Soldiers know this instinctively. A slouched commander inspires hesitation, but a straight-backed general, even exhausted, inspires obedience. You cannot ask for respect while your body kneels. Straighten your frame, and you silently announce, "This is my territory." Then comes the voice. Authority is carried on tone, not volume. A sharp, steady cadence commands more obedience than frantic shouting ever will. Listen to great leaders and generals. Winston Churchill's speeches were not fast. They were deliberate, weighted, leaving no space for doubt. When you speak with authority, others follow, even when they disagree. Weak tones beg for validation. Commanding tones end the argument before it begins. If your words stumble, your crown slips. If your words strike, your throne expands. And behind both posture and voice lies the armor of masks. Julius Caesar cultivated an image of calm under fire, even when chaos burned around him. His soldiers said he never trembled, even when the odds were impossible. Churchill mastered the art of appearing unbreakable during Britain's darkest hours, projecting certainty when bombs rained from the sky. They understood that respect is not earned by revealing every crack. It is earned by concealing them until strength grows beneath. You wear the mask until it becomes your skin. This is not hypocrisy. It is a strategy. A commander does not show fear to his troops, because fear spreads faster than plague. A ruler does not reveal doubt to his court, because doubt invites betrayal. And you cannot reveal weakness to those who look to you, because weakness in their eyes becomes permission to treat you as less. Even if your heart is unsteady, your mask must remain steady. That mask buys you time until your true strength takes root. Modern life is no different. In the workplace, the one who walks into the meeting with confidence, who speaks with clarity, who holds eye contact, becomes the natural center of gravity. Among friends, the one who controls their tone and presence leads the direction of the group. Respect is perception before it is reality. Your mask is your crown until your throne is unshakable. You may ask, is this not exhausting? Yes, but weakness is more exhausting. You may ask, is this not dishonest? No, because the mask is not a lie, it is the training ground for your true self. Act with command long enough, and command fuses with your identity. Pretend to be powerless, and power will abandon you. Pretend to be strong, and strength will come. Your enemies are watching. The world is watching. They are not judging what you feel inside. They are judging what you project outside. And if you fail to wear the mask of command, they will fit you with another mask. The mask of the servant, the mask of the forgotten. Respect is won by appearance and then secured by truth. Wear the mask until it becomes your face. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Machiavelli's words were not cruelty. They were recognition of how men truly think. Love is fragile. Fear endures. And the greatest form of fear is not loud. It is silent. It is the quiet weight of knowing that if you are crossed, there will be a consequence. This is the aura of the inner assassin, the unspoken shadow that commands respect without a single threat uttered. The most powerful respect is born not from constant displays of strength, but from the threat of unseen power. A wolf does not snarl at every passerby. He does not bare his teeth at every movement in the forest. He simply walks, and everything around him adjusts. The danger is not in what he shows, but in what he holds back. You respect the man who can, but does not need to act. The man who has the ability to strike, yet chooses silence. This restraint, paradoxically, makes him more dangerous. For you know that when he finally does act, it will not be wasted. This is the cold edge you must carry, the mentality that hums beneath your skin like a blade sheathed in darkness. You do not need to scream your authority. You do not need to broadcast your strength. You only need to live with the inner certainty that you are capable, and others will feel it in your presence. People sense this edge instinctively. They read it in your eyes, in your stillness, in the way you measure your words. A man who has nothing sharp within him is easily dismissed, but a man who carries a hidden edge unsettles the room without raising his voice. History has always rewarded those who mastered this invisible weapon. Consider Julius Caesar again. He inspired loyalty not just through charisma, but through an unshakable aura. Soldiers knew that defiance would be crushed, yet he did not need to constantly punish. His power was understood without being spoken. Or take Genghis Khan. He rarely needed to threaten his enemies directly. His reputation walked into villages before he did. Fear preceded him like smoke before fire. Even Winston Churchill carried this presence. Though he wielded words, It was his unflinching resolve, his ability to remain cold and immovable in crisis, that made his enemies hesitate. Notice the pattern. Their power was not noise. It was heavy, the kind of weight that presses on a room when they enter. That is presence as a weapon. You do not need to constantly prove yourself when the air around you already testifies to your strength. This is why desperate men are loud. They hope volume can cover absence. True predators move in silence because their silence already screams. To build this aura, you must cultivate two things: capacity and restraint. Capacity means you are sharpening your inner weapons: discipline, skill, knowledge, composure. Restraint means you do not unleash them recklessly. Together, they form the invisible crown that others cannot ignore. If you lack capacity, you are hollow. If you lack restraint, you are reckless. With both, you become untouchable. In modern life, this silent fear translates to respect. The colleague who keeps composure while others argue becomes the one people turn to. The individual who does not flinch under pressure becomes the quiet authority in the room. You do not need to announce your power. Your presence announces it for you. The world listens more closely to the man who speaks rarely, but decisively, because they know every word carries the possibility of action. Remember, if you walk without consequence, you invite disrespect. If you carry an aura of consequence, even unspoken, the world adjusts to you. The inner assassin is not cruelty, it is discipline. It is the understanding that to be respected, you must be capable of fear, yet wise enough not to display it carelessly. You must become the figure that others hesitate to cross, not because you roar, but because they know your silence hides a blade. Carry the blade in silence, and the world will bow. Mankind is driven more by the fear of loss than by the hope of gain. Machiavelli's truth cuts through the ages like steel, and when it comes to respect, this law reigns supreme. No one respects the sheep who feeds on comfort, who grows fat on laziness and soft habits. Respect belongs to the wolf, the one who hungers, who disciplines, who sharpens his teeth against resistance. You cannot command respect if you starve your inner predator. The wolf within you must be fed. Starving the sheep is the first step. Every weak habit you entertain, snoozing the alarm, giving in to distraction, numbing yourself with endless entertainment, feeds the sheep inside you. The sheep craves comfort, safety, and approval. But sheep are herded, controlled, and consumed. They are not feared. They are not respected. They are disposable. Look around in modern life and you will see a kingdom of sheep scrolling their days away, bloated with excuses, trained to obey the shepherd of convenience. And you must ask yourself, are you feeding the sheep or the wolf? To feed the wolf, you must embrace what I call the disciplined diet. The ancients knew this well. The Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort, fasting, enduring cold, training their minds to master the body. The samurai lived under Bushido, the way of the warrior, where every action was measured against discipline and honor. These codes were not about ritual for ritual's sake. They were fuel for the predator within. Every sacrifice sharpened the blade of their character. Every denial of comfort made them stronger than those who surrendered to it. Think of Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who slept on a hard bed, though he could command luxury. Think of Miyamoto Musashi, the undefeated samurai who wrote the Book of Five Rings, living with simplicity while perfecting his craft. These men fed the wolf by turning discipline into nourishment. You too must do the same. Train your body daily, not for vanity, but for strength. Train your mind, not for trivia, but for clarity. Starve the sheep of indulgence and give the wolf meat worth tearing into. But there is more than muscle and ritual. There is the howl within, the spiritual fire that grows when the wolf is alive in you. This is not religion, It is raw spirit. It is the deep knowledge that you are not meant to be tamed. When you feel hunger and endure it, when you feel weakness and crush it, when you feel fear and walk through it, that is the wolf howling in your chest. People hear it even if you never speak of it. They feel it when they meet your eyes. Respect is drawn to that energy because it is rare in an age where most men have caged their wolves and fattened their sheep. This is why you must feed your predator daily. Respect is not something you ask for. It is something others give when they sense your strength, your hunger, your discipline. The sheep begs for respect and is ignored. The wolf takes no words, only presence, and the world responds. Your command is simple. Kill your weak habits. Starve your comfort. Devour challenge. Feed your wolf until its howl shakes the silence around you. Starve the sheep. Feed the wolf. Men rise from one ambition to another. First, they seek to secure themselves against attack. Then they attack others. Machiavelli's words remind you that life is not random. It is a chessboard where every move shapes your future. Respect is not won by accident. It is positioned piece by piece, move by move, until your presence itself becomes a strategy. The weak stumble through life like pawns, with no plan, reacting to every push. The strong play as kings and queens, turning the entire board to their favor. Respect is positioning. Just as in chess, brute strength means nothing if your pieces are scattered and your mind is unfocused. A knight out of place is useless. A rook trapped behind pawns is wasted potential. In war, generals who won without massive armies did so through placement, knowing where to stand, when to advance, when to retreat. Think of Hannibal at Cannae, outnumbered but using formation to encircle the Romans. He did not fight harder, he fought smarter. In life, you must learn the same. Your tone, your silence, your timing. All are positions on the board. People don't respect noise, they respect control. The one who sees 3 moves ahead while others only react to the present. But the board is not only about where you place yourself, it is about reading the opponent. Every conversation is a test, every glance a move. The disrespect you face is rarely an accident. It is a probing attack. Someone interrupts you not just to speak, but to see if you will yield ground. A coworker makes a sly remark to measure your composure. A friend forgets your name in a group setting, not because they forgot, but to gauge whether you will shrink or assert your identity. These are not small slips. They are pawns advanced to test your defense. If you are blind, you will react emotionally, and the opponent gains control of the board. But if you see the trap, you can turn their move into your victory. Respect is won not by crushing every attack, but by knowing which attacks expose the weakness of the attacker. Sometimes, that means sacrifice. The greatest chess masters know that pawns are not clung to, they are offered. A piece is sometimes surrendered, not because it was weak, but because giving it up secures a stronger future. In life, the same is true. Silence can be the most devastating move. Imagine this. Someone insults you in front of others. Your first instinct is to strike back. But if you hold your ground in silence, let the weight of your composure settle, the crowd sees who holds power. The aggressor looks like a jester swinging wildly at the air, while you remain the king unmoved. Other times, withdrawal is the sacrifice. You leave a shallow circle, a petty argument or a fruitless job, not because you are weak, but because you are shifting to a position where your next strike matters. The board of life is patient but merciless. Every move is remembered. Every position signals strength or weakness. If you are careless, you will be checkmated by those who see further than you. But if you cultivate foresight, if you master placement, if you learn to sacrifice in the moment to dominate in the future, respect will cling to you like a shadow. Your command is clear. Stop playing like a pawn. See every interaction as a strategy. Position yourself where respect must follow. Read every word, every gesture as a calculated move. Sacrifice in the small to win in the great. Life is chess. Position, read, sacrifice, win. It is not titles that honor men, but men that honor titles. Machiavelli's reminder cuts deep. Power is not conferred by words, by crowns, or by empty labels. Power is recognized through the iron weight of discipline, through the rituals that prove you cannot be moved. Respect is not demanded in speeches, it is conditioned through consistency. The man who shows up every day with an unshakable rhythm becomes a force others cannot deny. The one who falters, who bends to mood or weakness, is cast aside like a pawn without purpose. Consistency commands. Neuroscience has proven what the ancients already understood. The human mind respects what repeats. A habit reinforced daily etches itself into the brain like grooves in stone. People mirror the same response. They learn how to treat you based on what you consistently present. If you allow lateness once, they will delay again. If you tolerate disrespect twice, they will disrespect forever. But if you appear with unwavering regularity, arriving sharp, speaking firm, standing tall, you condition the world to respond with recognition. Just as the drumbeat in battle keeps soldiers aligned, your rituals keep others attuned to your authority. But words alone cannot forge iron. The body itself must be sculpted into proof. Physical discipline is not vanity. It is a visible metaphor of your will. When you train, when you lift, when you master martial arts, you are not only building muscle, you are forging a weapon others can see. The Greeks revered their warriors not only for strategy, but for the sight of their strength. The Spartans, trained from youth in the agoge, were feared long before battle because discipline radiated from their posture. In today's world, your fitness is your silent armor. A disciplined body signals a disciplined mind. People may ignore your words, but they cannot ignore the unspoken language of strength. In a boardroom, in a negotiation, in an argument, your physical bearing becomes a silent commander that others instinctively respect. And beyond the body lies the power of ritual itself, the symbolic rites that sanctify authority. Emperors, kings, warriors of every age understood the psychology of ritual. Roman generals would perform sacrifices before campaigns, not only for the gods, but to show their soldiers that the moment was sacred. Samurai carried tea ceremonies into their preparations for battle, turning calm ritual into steel focus. These were not superstitions, they were signals to the self, signals to the crowd, signals that authority is not casual, it is consecrated. You must craft your own rites of iron. Maybe it is the morning routine that hardens your mind before the world intrudes. Maybe it is the deliberate silence you hold before speaking in a room, making others wait until your words cut through. Whatever your ritual, it becomes the fire that forges your aura of command. You cannot be taken seriously without this daily hammering of the self. If you lack consistency, you are noisy. If your body betrays weakness, you are dismissed. If you have no ritual to frame your authority, you fade into the background of ordinary men. Respect is never handed. It is drilled, carved, earned through the iron repetition of your choices. Your command is clear. Build rituals that cannot be broken. Condition the world to recognize your discipline. Let your body speak where words fall silent. Turn daily actions into sacred rites that remind everyone, including yourself, that you are not ordinary. Ritual iron builds respect. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Machiavelli wrote those words to remind rulers that safety lies not in fragile affection, but in the armor of respect. Yet there is a form of power even greater than fear. It is the state where others do not dare to touch you, not with insult, not with accusation, not with betrayal. To be untouchable is the summit of authority. It is when your presence itself creates a field others hesitate to cross. How is untouchability forged? First, you strip away every weakness that can be used against you. Imagine a knight entering the battlefield with a gap in his armor. The enemy may not have noticed it before, but once exposed, every arrow will aim there. This is how most people live, full of cracks, full of leaks, full of vulnerabilities that invite attack. A hidden addiction, a lack of discipline, an uncontrolled outburst, each becomes a chink in the armor, each a handle enemies can grip. If you want to be untouchable, you must patch every weakness. Sharpen your words until none can twist them. Guard your habits until none can expose them. Imagine yourself as steel, polished, smooth. No surface to grab, no crack to strike. The hypothetical man with no chinks in his armor is not invincible by luck. He is invincible by preparation. But physical armor is not enough. True untouchability requires the higher ground, the moral high ground that even enemies cannot stain. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "The best way of avenging oneself is not to become like the wrongdoer." The Stoics understood that if you anchor yourself to principle, slander slides off you like rain off marble. Julius Caesar could be accused of ambition, yet his mercy toward enemies built him a reputation no whisper could erase. When your conduct is clean, attacks only reveal the malice of your accusers. In a world that thrives on scandal, integrity becomes a fortress. Your power doubles, not only because you are armored against assault, but because those who watch know you stand on higher ground than the ones who throw mud, and mud cannot stick to fire. Then comes the rarest shield of all, the aura of authority. This is when people censor themselves before you ever need to. They measure their words in your presence. They straighten their backs. They hesitate to gossip, to mock, to challenge, because your silence carries weight. This is not achieved overnight. It is cultivated through years of consistency, discipline, and presence. In modern life, you see this when a true leader enters a room. The chatter lowers, the atmosphere tightens. Not because he demanded it, but because his reputation walked in before he did. An aura of authority is an invisible crown. Others may not bow physically, but their instincts bend to it. They feel that they are standing in front of someone who cannot be touched without consequence. The danger of neglecting this pursuit is brutal. If you leave chinks in your armor, you invite endless attack. If you fall into hypocrisy, your enemies will feed on your flaws. If you lack authority, you will be treated as common, mocked, ignored, and disrespected. But if you commit to this path, you will rise into a realm above ordinary men. You will become the one others whisper about, but never openly strike. The one whose presence disciplines the room without raising a hand. The one who carries an aura so heavy it cannot be pierced. Your command is simple. Seal every crack. Stand on principle. Cultivate an aura that others instinctively respect. Fear is strong, but untouchability is eternal. Become untouchable, and the world will bow in silence. It is not titles that honor men, but men that honor titles. Machiavelli's reminder strikes like a blade across centuries. Power is not given by crowns, robes, or thrones. Power is earned through the forging of the self, until no force, neither man, nor mob, nor fate, can strip away your sovereignty. The empire of self-respect is not gifted. It is conquered, and tonight, at this moment, the coronation is yours. Picture it. A dark hall lit by torches. A throne, empty, waiting for its rightful ruler. That throne is your mind, and for years it has been raided by doubts, ruled by weakness, occupied by fear. But now, after discipline carved into your mornings, after stillness sharpened your focus, after ruthlessness cut away every parasite, after masks protected you in hostile courts, after the inner assassin executed hesitation, after predator instincts taught you to hunt instead of beg, after chess-like foresight made you untouchable, you walk forward to claim the seat. You kneel before no man. The crown is lowered onto your head, not by chance, not by inheritance, but by the blood and fire of your own will. This is the crowning ceremony of the self. You become king not of a nation, but of the empire within, a kingdom no invader can touch. Yet a king's true test is not whether he sits the throne. It is whether his reign shapes generations. Fear fades, but reverence echoes. History remembers rulers, not by how loudly they roared, but by how deeply they carved themselves into the fabric of time. Think of Alexander. His empire shattered after his death, but the reverence of his name became immortal. Think of Marcus Aurelius. His philosophy, born in the silence of his private writings, commands respect 2 millennia later. A legacy of fear and reverence is built when self-respect hardens into law, when your discipline becomes the mythology others tell. Your life ceases to be just a life. It becomes an example, a banner, a legend. When you rise above disrespect, you don't just protect your sovereignty, you inspire others to rise above theirs. That is the empire's expansion, one mind becoming many, one throne birthing a dynasty. But never forget where this path began. You were not born crowned, you were born in chains. You were mocked, ignored, disrespected. You were made to feel small, to bow, to justify yourself to voices louder than your own. At first, you wore the mask of a victim. You let others play king, while you lived as their pawn. But pawns, when they cross the board, transform, and that is your story. The metamorphosis from victim to conqueror. Picture the slave, snapping chains, with bare hands, fire in his eyes. Picture the beaten soldier rising from the dirt, blood dripping, sword clenched, refusing to fall again. Picture the general scarred but unbroken, crowned emperor by the force of his own victories. This is the modern throne. You no longer begging for respect but commanding it. You no longer pleading for validation but radiating sovereignty. And now, disrespect does not touch you. Not because the world has grown kinder, but because you have grown untouchable. Words that once pierced you now dissolve like arrows against iron. Manipulations that once controlled you now look like the clumsy games of children. You do not chase respect anymore, you are respect embodied. Every ritual you keep, every silence you master, every strike of ruthlessness you deliver, every move you calculate like a grand master, every instinct honed like a predator, every mask worn with precision, all of it has forged an empire. The empire of self-respect. Understand the stakes. If you let the crown slip, the vultures return. If you neglect the rituals, the parasites creep back. If you hesitate, the assassins strike. If you forget the throne, the mob sits upon it. But if you guard it, day after day, morning after morning, and after decision, you remain sovereign. You remain the one others respect in silence, the one whose legacy outlives them all. Your command is simple. Rule yourself with iron, and the world bows to your empire. Never again a victim. Never again a pawn. Never again touched by the petty hands of disrespect. You are the king of the only kingdom that matters. Yourself. Repeat it until it carves itself into your soul. I am the empire of self-respect. Never was anything great achieved without danger. Machiavelli's words strike like a war drum. And the greatest danger of all is not armies, not poverty, not death. It is the slow erosion of self-respect. Because once your sovereignty is gone, everything else collapses with it. Respect is currency. Every day you spend it, hoard it, or waste it. You spend it when you give your energy to people who don't deserve it. You hoard it when you protect your boundaries and hold your silence. You waste it when you let small slights pass unchecked, thinking they are harmless. But this economy is unforgiving. The man who hoards respect, who defends his value as if it were gold, becomes rich in dignity. The man who spends too freely, who throws his worth into the marketplace of approval, ends up bankrupt. This is the modern battlefield. Offices, relationships, negotiations, where every glance and every word is a transaction. If you treat your respect like loose change, the world will treat you like a beggar. Guard it like treasure, and even your enemies will acknowledge your wealth. But understand this: disrespect is death by 1,000 cuts. One joke at your expense, one dismissal of your voice, one subtle interruption that tells the room your time doesn't matter. You think it's nothing, you let it pass, but tomorrow another cut comes, and another, until you are bleeding out, not from one fatal strike, but from 1,000 moments where you refuse to defend your throne. Picture it: each cut is a drop of sovereignty falling to the floor, each one making you weaker, more hollow, easier to control. No king falls in one blow. They fall because their fortress was chipped away, stone by stone, until it crumbled. Refuse every cut. Refuse every attempt to make you less. Even silence can be a weapon, but never silence that surrenders your crown. History remembers not the men who asked for respect, but the men who commanded it. Think of Winston Churchill's call to fight on the beaches, where he refused to bow even with his nation cornered. Think of Alexander rallying his men at the Hydaspes, reminding them that their courage, not circumstance, would write their names into history. Think of the generals, the revolutionaries, the leaders who understood one thing: respect is never granted by request. It is seized, it is demanded, it is commanded. And that command begins, not with nations, but with yourself. Now the final order is given to you. Stand as the sovereign of your own life. Do not beg, do not wait, do not yield. Rule yourself with the iron law of kingship, and no voice, no insult, no hand will ever rule you. Repeat it until it becomes your creed. Rule yourself, and no one will ever rule you.